Hi guys, what's going on, and welcome back to another episode of Conqueror's Blade. Just a really short one today. Something I get asked quite a little bit actually is what should I do with my basic attribute points. My attribute points here for my hero. Which class should I put them in? Which of the 5 options should I put them in? And what effect does it give? It's really quite basic, and the effect it gives is fairly minimal. So we can pretty much find all that out quite easily by this little more button here. Opens up a much more detailed statistics panel about your hero. It gives you your various stats. And each of these increases various of these. And it tells you quite clearly. So if we add, for example, onto strength, we can see it does slashing damage, blunt damage, and piercing armor penetration. So for us on this glaive, our only things that are really relevant are slashing damage and our slashing armor penetration, because the glaive is all about slashing. Very few of his abilities affect things like blunt and stuff like that. So it's not really worthwhile doing anything else. But as you can see, as a total, it's +6 to the slashing damage. I mean, that's like it's less than 1%. It's nothing. It's far less than 1% actually. It's less than 0.1%. It's tiny, nothing. It's a very insignificant value. Yeah, like 0.05 or 0.07%, something like that. So it's very negligible amounts of difference. So whether you put it into this or not, it's nice. It's going to give you that little bit more extra damage. And without fully knowing how the armor system works in terms of a comparable defense, I think it's hard to say exactly how much of a benefit that is. Some games do sort of a takeaway, so that the amount of damage you do is the total value of your attack damage minus the value of your armor. But once you start taking the armor values off that, then of course the percentage increase of that +6 does seem more. But we're not actually sure if that's the case. The other option, agility, is mostly about armor penetration, at least in the case of this. But it also does piercing damage. So if you're a longbow player, which we'll have a look at in a minute, suddenly this becomes much more viable and a much more better thing to have up. Which is why I guess they've put it as agility. That kind of makes sense because that's focused towards bows you would expect to be more agility orientated than strength. Then your other 3 are basically survivalist stats. So you've got armor, which gives you an increase to your defense abilities, only of +3, but considering how proportionally lower your armor values are, it's probably a similar percentage increase as in something like this. Again, it's just such a small increase. It's hard to see how it's going to make a massive difference to how your character plays out. I guess it's better than nothing, but for me, I've been more inclined to put it into damage than I would be to armor, so I think I'll be more strength or agility over armor personally. But there are a few points in there, it's not going to do any harm. We've got toughness, which is just health, just gives you a bonus to health. But when you consider, my armor alone gives me a health bonus of 1900, and this is a pretty crappy armor, not a special upgraded or anything like that. Then another 100, pretty small value, doesn't really affect anything else, just the total hit points. Just not really worth it to me. And of course the other option is leadership. Again, I kind of like to say what's the point in investing in any of these, but leadership, you're getting +3 onto a value of 480. Pretty small. Unless you're going to do it a fairly significant amount, it's not going to actually help you use more units because obviously units often have the minimum value is 40 points to get an extra unit of peasants. So if you can fit everyone in, to get to the extra 40, you're going to be doing what, like 14 levels in investing in leadership just to get that extra 1 unit of like tenant farmers. And your leadership goes up every 10 levels in the current build. So when you reach level 10, you gain 100 leadership. When you reach level 20, you gain another 100 leadership. So I've just reached level 40 and I went from 381 to 481. So you kind of get the idea. It goes up like that naturally anyway. I don't think there's any massive benefit personally to kind of doing that through the leadership. Personally, I think you should do strength or agility. But let's just, for the sake of argument, have a quick look at the longbow. Not with the best class, but you can see how things now are different because we're looking at this piercing damage and the piercing armor penetration, in which case the armor penetration is increased by the strength, and the agility increases the piercing damage. Kind of this point here. So that's why I guess it's worth pointing out that there is a difference in basic attributes between melee and ranged units. If you're focusing on a glaive build like I am, and switching over to a long bow, where you're going to be focusing on this piercing damage, then of course you're going to be much more agility orientated, so that kind of doesn't fit in with the two. But having said all that, the actual total value of difference it makes is quite small. So is it really worth worrying about? Probably not. Better gameplay, better sort of tactical positioning, better use of your units is going to make a far more significant impact on the battle than +6 to piercing damage of 1460. You know, it just really is. It's really not of that significant value. So hopefully that kind of at least, I don't know if that really clears it up, but it kind of offers maybe a different insight if you hadn't sort of looked at that in detail yourself. It's really something worth looking at. I'm going to put mine in strength because I'm going to go back and continue to play the glaive. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you have any questions about this, do ask down below. I'll be sure to get back to you. Subscribe to the channel for plenty more Conqueror's Blade footage, and I shall see you all in the next video.